What's going on, troopers? Welcome to the Trooper Transmission. And today we got my man Thomas coming on to talk all things fitness, nerding out. Thomas, my man, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
So let's wind that clock back early 2024. What was going on in your life, in your health, your fitness, and ultimately what inspired you to make a change?
So early 2024, I I weighed 200 pounds. That was the heaviest I ever weighed, and I was struggling with simple tasks such as putting my shoes on. Um, Not necessarily struggling, but bending over. I noticed that it was more difficult than usual because the gut was in the way. And I was like, man, I should really do something about this before it becomes, you know, too big of a problem that I've got health issues where I'm dependent on a manufactured substance, or, it's like, okay, well, now instead of losing 30, 40 pounds, I have to lose, 100, 150 pounds. Um, I had seen your ads before. I really like them. They're funny. Um, and when I was really starting to get serious about getting back in shape and everything, I kept trying things on my own, and it would start and then it would stop. And then I remembered your ads, and I was like, you know what, I'll see what this is all about. And I really like the program because you already have a plan and everything. So it makes it really easy. All I have to do is bring the effort, and I've made progress.
Yeah. And the ads you're talking about, those are the skits where I'm making goofy characters and
Yeah.
names, which is always so
General
funny to hear people
ginormous.
reference where I'm like, wait, people actually like those? Because normally it's like ads, you're like, oh, I hate ads. Ads are so boring. But sounds like those are kind of funny, I guess.
I enjoy them.
All right,
I
that's
still
good.
see them every now and then. I like it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So as you were checking this out and saying, okay, what's going on here? Were there any concerns you had or any hesitations you had before being like, okay, cool. Let's train like a trooper, let's nerd out and let's start making changes.
Um, so there were concerns. So on like a personal aspect, I was like, okay, if I'm gonna get into this, I might have an injury, and eventually I did, but I expected it to happen earlier on. And it didn't happen, it happened later on, but we were able to work through that. Also, there weren't really like any concerns in the beginning. The 30-day challenge. I was free. I was like, it's free. It can't hurt to, you know, try. And then, about halfway through the 30-day challenge, we had discussed the paid for program, and uh, the one thing that came to mind was like, every time I think about a trainer, it's like something that's in person. I've never heard of a virtual trainer thing. I was like, is this a thing? And I started seeing ads for a lot more virtual trainer programs. I was like, oh, okay, this is a thing. And jumped into the program. And like I said, you have a plan. All I have to do is follow a plan and bring the effort. I get out of it what I put into it. I've made progress. I lost about 30 pounds in 3-ish months. Um, but there was one thing that I didn't even think to look for that I should have done my due diligence, is to ask you for any accreditations or anything. And then I remember in some of your training videos, you actually display them. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, there's those things I should have asked for and looked for, but all right, cool. So this is legit.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of people don't think to ask that, but then you make a good point where it's like is this just a dude on the internet that wears helmets and works out, which could definitely come across that way. And that's why I like to lead some of my videos with those, where it's like, hey, just so you know, the Star Wars stuff is just to make it fun. It's based off of
Right.
all the things that I've applied over 6 years. But that is a good point for anyone watching is like, do your research and don't just trust someone just because they make ads you like, and I'm obviously glad we work together, but it's important to make sure that it's someone that you connect with and trust, both like scientifically, but also maybe value wise as well. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. 30 pounds in 3 months is fantastic. What would you say were some of the either tactical shifts that you made or mindset shifts that you made, like strategically, that you're like, oh, okay, I just made this little 5 degree shift and now everything started to really steamroll?
Discipline is key for sure. Just actually, like I said, you have the plan. I just have to bring the effort. So sticking with it, that's definitely necessary. Um, Also, some things that I think really helped move things forward with my goals that I was failing to meet before my own was the macros that you had laid out. I've never even heard of that before. And then so you had the macros thing. Now it's like, man, this is going to be a lot of math, but I got to get my value out of this program, so I'm going to do everything I can to stick with it. So I bought the gram scale and everything and started doing all the math with my meals and stuff, and it worked, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like you were someone who right away just did like follow the plan, executed the mission, and right away, and in order to lose 30 pounds in 3 months, you do definitely have to be consistent. And so you mentioned discipline. What do you think helped the most in leveling up that discipline? Like, was it the accountability? Was it having an implemented plan that you didn't need to think about? Like, what specifically helped make that discipline fence easier to jump over?
Definitely there already being a plan laid out, your program, uh, because it was there, it was in front of me. It was like, here's what you need to do. Okay, cool, execute. Bam. It's too easy. Also, like going to the gym, it just go there, like just drive, just get there. Because once you're there, there's only one thing to do. Um, also, I think that the meal tracking with the macros and everything, um, maintaining a level of integrity with that is key. Um, like, okay, if I have like a cookie or something, if I don't put that on there, I'm cheating myself, you know.
Yeah.
And then also sticking with the meals and everything, going to the grocery store. It's really easy to avoid the cravings for sweets and things like that if you just simply don't buy them. So then they're not in the house. I think that was key too.
Yeah, that's a huge one. It's like willpower and biology is this battle that I play that I see people playing, and biology will always beat willpower. If you're hungry enough and you got it on the fridge, you're like, oh no, I'm gonna have discipline. Eventually, you're just gonna be like, give me those Oreos, and then all of a sudden, those Oreos are gone.
Yep. So if it's not there in the first place, you can't touch it.
Yeah, Ghost Oreos have 0 calories, 100% of the time. Um, Curious for you because you've had a really interesting journey of seeing a lot of success right away. You mentioned the injury and then working through that, still seeing progress. Talk a little bit about that experience and any advice maybe that you'd have for someone who does, you know, get knocked up, not knocked up, picks up a knock. That's a British term of an injury. Picks up an injury. I just
I
said
got
knocked
you.
up on the podcast. Picks up an injury while they're training. How would you approach, or how did you approach, working around that, and how would you recommend someone else thinks about, picking up again like a little injury and still being able to see some progress in other areas?
So I feel like maybe what most people struggle with when they start getting serious about developing a healthier lifestyle and getting in shape is when they do have an injury and they can't go to the gym, they have that little bit of fallback and then everything falls back.
Hmm.
Um, so the macro plan you had laid out for me with the added activity of going to the gym, there I was losing weight. I stuck to the same macro plan during the injury, and there was still weight loss, although it was slower because there was not as much activity because I wasn't going to the gym because I was injured. Um, but just again, the discipline, the integrity with the meal tracking, I think that was key, and it's also like if you don't stick to it, you're only cheating yourself. And it's a program that you already paid for. So to get the value out of it, you have to stick with it.
Hmm.
And then also, while I was injured, you had me on the Spine Awakens program, and getting back in shape and everything, developing healthier lifestyle, thinking about going to the gym and everything. It's like yeah, bench press, deadlift, squat, things like that. You don't really think about like, oh, I had an injury. Now there's physical therapy and you're, doing stuff like corset breathing. That's not really like something you think about when you think about the macho dude at the gym that you want to be or whatever. Um, but those kind of things are necessary. They do help. And I remember when I started the Spine Awakens system, I was questionable about it, but my back started feeling better. And at first, I thought that maybe it was just because my back had healed normally as it would. And so then I stopped doing Spine Awakens. And then my back started hurting again. I was like, wait a second. I put two and two together. I started doing Spine Awakens again, and my back stopped hurting. And I was like, that right there, that was enough proof to me that this was as legitimate of a program as it can be.
Yeah, that's that's a really good point because the internet does not show you deep breathing. It doesn't show you how to get your entire core to work together like a corset. But whether it's you or me or anyone who's had back pain, man, I'm so glad that you brought that up because it's such a game changer, not just for getting out of pain and injury, but just posture and having better mobility. And you sticking with it, trusting it was such a big win that I felt. 30 pounds is great, but being able to manage pain, get out of pain, and have that tool in the future is absolutely massive. And I was so pumped when you messaged me that and you're like, dude, back's feeling way better because injuries are gonna happen. There's no way to go, let's say you work out 50 years, like in a perfect world, people start, and they just work out their whole life. To never pick up an injury is just about impossible. So it's not avoiding injury, it's being able to bounce back quickly. And you did a great
Yep.
job just implementing that, bouncing back and
Thank you.
having a really good mindset around the things you could control, macros, sleep, and just focusing on the exercises you could do.
Yep. And then, like I said, and like you were touching base on what you see on the internet and on social media is all the cool stuff, you know, the guy that's part of the 1000 club or something like that. That guy's dealt with how many injuries? They
Yeah.
never show that. Why don't they show that? It's not the cool stuff, but it's
Yeah.
necessary.
Yep.
And, my number one thing for being in the program is just being healthy and capable. That's what I want. So I'm more focused on those kinds of things.
Yeah. And outside of the weight loss, were there any other wins that you noticed, whether it's measurable, something that was like an event that you were able to recognize, like, oh, wow, like I feel way better. You mentioned earlier putting on your boots and having that be a struggle. Like, has there been anything that you've seen in terms of positive changes
Oh,
beyond just
yeah.
the scale?
Yeah. So, one with the weight loss, my feet don't like hurt standing all day at work anymore. I mean, there's still a little bit of pain, but I still got a little bit of weight I could shed. But I honestly didn't even notice that at first. But then one day I was like, wait, my feet don't hurt. They usually hurt. Cool. Um, Also, my most recent checkup at the doctor, my resting heart rate was like 75, and my blood pressure was like 115-ish over 75-ish. So that's come down quite a bit to a healthy range. I don't think I ever entered a dangerous range, but again, taking care of the potential problem before it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And then, it's harder to deal with. Let's see what else. Just performing day-to-day tasks, especially at work. Um, I'm a welder by trade, so I'm typically moving around lots of heavy steel parts and everything. It just it's easier to do things at work, which is great. Being healthier and more capable, feeling more energetic through the day. I'm not always tired. It's great, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you make a really good point. An ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. You could wait 50 more pounds, but then instead of pulling out a weed, you're having to clear an entire forest of weeds. And it's just so much easier to address it now. And kudos to you for having the wisdom to be like, yeah, I'd rather solve this now and get the benefits that compound at year one, two, three, four, five of the skill sets that you've developed. And so again, kudos to you on that. And we can just kind of wrap this up with, and you've kind of addressed a few of these already, so maybe it's just a little recap, but like three keys to success. What would you tell a younger brother, a younger version of yourself, or someone just starting their fitness journey are like the three big things to focus on? And if you do those three things, you'll see a lot of success.
Um, Form, pay attention to form. Form is important to prevent injuries. Now, not to say injuries will never happen, they will, but mitigating and preventing as many as possible is important so that you can keep working towards your fitness goals with the 100% capability. I also think that paying attention to the intake, food, meals, staying disciplined, having integrity, that's key. Sticking to a meal plan, meal tracking, macros, whatever diet it is you choose is key. I do think that another key to success is finding someone, like if you can't come up with something that works on your own and it's real on and off like it was for me before I came to you, is reaching out to a professional, someone that already has a plan, because then all you have to do is bring the effort. So that way it's only, maybe an hour or two a day instead of 3 or 4 hours a day, because not only do you have to take time to execute, you have to take time to come up with your plan, to research a diet, to come up with a workout, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And just like removing the decision fatigue. And I see that a lot where someone, we talk about this a lot where, you're not married, you don't have kids, so you have more bandwidth, but even then you've got a lot going on. And so I can't imagine having to try and balance three kids,
Right.
work, hobbies, wife wants you to take the trash out, and you're sitting there on the computer trying to be like carnivore or keto. And it's like that meme where the
Yeah,
guy's like, which
man.
nuke bomb should I press? And
Yeah,
it's just
that's what
like,
I'm saying, man. Like
damn,
I'm living life on easy mode right now, but for people that do got families and stuff, I think that just reaching out to a professional right away is probably the best bet because you don't have to think about it. It's less stress. You just execute, you
yeah,
know.
yep, absolutely. Dude, love the wisdom, love the keys to success, and just love seeing you progress. And even when you have obstacles, it's a real testament to you just having a good mindset and then
Thank you,
deserving the
Paul.
results you get. So proud of you, man, and excited to keep crushing it with you. I see you got the shirt, so
Yeah,
we'll.
man, came in the mail yesterday, right before our
Oh,
coaching call. Didn't know what it was, and then I opened it today, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I'll wear this for our interview."
perfect timing. Is that the yellow belt? 212?
Yeah,
Yeah,
212.
cool.
Yep.
Cool. I got the 501st for the Republic, man. Thanks for the time and keep crushing it.
Thank you.